I want to share what is my current favorite build in the game for the Wizard. Now, this is a build that is built around a lazy man's farming build. So if you're familiar with like the Firestorm Barbarian, this is the Wizard's answer to it. Effectively, it is built around one thing, which is I want to run in a circle. I want to do that as effectively as possible where I don't really have to stop. Maybe I throw a basic attack out now and then, and we've even built around that concept. And besides that, I just want to continue the run. If I have a minion behind, I want them to die, and I wouldn't even had to have gone back. And I would like all the minions up ahead to be auto-grabbed for me and then brought into my AoE and slaughtered that way. Effectively, I just want it to be a very easy, brain-dead build in order for me to activate and just get all of the minions killed while I'm farming and not really have to worry about it. Well, that is what I have built today. Now, I have basically every legendary essence for the Wizard, and I've tried a bunch of different builds. There's only 2 legendary essences I currently don't have as it stands, I believe, and that is for the Electrocute basic attack build, which I'm going to be trying next. But as it stands, this is my current favorite build, and I'm going to break down why, as well as the pros and cons of the build and exactly how to min-max it. Now, the build is built around mostly one major interaction, which is going to be the Banquet of Eyes, which is damage dealt to enemies suffering from your continual damage effects is increased, as well as your critical hit damage is increased for every continual effect you have, and then you enter a Poison Rage state every 40 seconds for 12 seconds, dealing bonus continual damage, basically a dot that you put on people when you damage them. Now, this pairs extremely well with 2 different gems. Now, the first gem is going to be Pain Class, because obviously we're going to be doing some synergy with continuous damage effects, but it mostly is going to pair with Seeping Bile. So this is going to be one of the first times in the build I say, I do believe this build actually requires a 5-star gem to be as effective, which is going to be the Seeping Bile. Now, the Seeping Bile is going to apply poison effects on enemies at a given chance, and then is going to, when you kill somebody that has the Seeping Bile on them, it will explode, basically applying the Seeping Bile in an AoE around them. So effectively what ends up happening with that is when you're using the abilities that we're going to discuss in just a moment, you are both going to apply continuous damage with the burning and go into a poison rage, but also your Seeping Bile, when it explodes, is going to spread that poison around as well. And then your arrow that goes out, I call this Yondu's arrow, this little electrical guy that goes out, is going to spread the poison as well as gather people, and then your burning orbs will give you the critical strike chance from actually having continual damage going, and every time your Seeping Bile is going as well, you're getting critical hit. So basically it's this huge cluster of continual damage that you just keep getting and spreading over and over and over again. And when you get to a yellow, that's sort of where the Scorch Orbs come into play, because you can actually kill the yellows fairly quickly with Scorch Orbs, as Scorch Orbs actually do pretty significant burst damage. So what this whole build is built around both continual damage, which is why Pain Clasp is so good, but it's mostly built around the interaction of Banquet of the Eyes as well as Seeping Bile. They go very well hand in hand together. Now, as far as the abilities go, we have the Meteorite Pants that are going to continually strike the meteorites down around us. Now, this in and of itself is not continual damage, but it will give us the chance to apply the Seeping Bile. But more importantly, and the reason we're actually using this ability is much like Lightning Nova, it goes with us. So we can cast it and then move, and it will continually move that circle of damage with us, allowing us to go from pack to pack. Moving with us is going to be a consistent theme of the abilities. The next ability we're going to look at is the Lightning Nova, and you're going to notice that Lightning Nova moves with us as well. And the whole point of this Lightning Nova is to both apply the poison effects once we've triggered the poison effects by doing continual damage with things like the Scorch, which we'll talk about in a moment. Now it goes out and hits everybody. But it also is to consistently be up and hit the minions and pull them towards us. So that way, when the Seeping Bile actually procs, we have the minions being aggroed running towards us, and that's part of how you are clearing the mobs behind you and consistently getting the reset when it comes to respawning the mobs that you're running through. And for that reason, what I actually have is I have both increased Lightning Nova damage as well as decreased Lightning Nova cooldown on my basic attack. This is where I put my Pain Clasp, it's my only awakening, and I have the Lightning Nova damage Thunderbird's Bite, with also giving me the Pain Clasp of awakening bonus. Lightning Nova cooldown is decreased by 10. Now, you don't need the decrease by 10, but once you have the decrease by 10, you have 100% basically uptime on this for sure. And I can constantly recast it. You see it's applying things like Seeping Bow, which apply also the poison effects. And now we have the rage effect here from the offset. And you can see how good that arrow is. It itself can basically clear minions once you have the poison effect up, and it also drags the minions towards you. And you get that Seeping Bow, clearing more, etc., etc. Now we need to talk about Scorch. And Scorch is going to be your big chunks of damage, as well as the only way you're really going to be stacking Rampage, because it's the only actual continual damage you're using besides the Seeping Bow as well as the poison set. And for that reason, Scorch is an important helmet item, and that's going to be the Memory of Zhao Yu. Now, I use this one here, and you can see that the Essence Mastery is just going to increase its damage. The Burning is important because the additional ticks of Burning both trigger your Banquet of Eyes, but gives you more opportunity to proc those Seeping Bow procs. But even more importantly, it moves with us once again. So you can see we have now 3 moves that will move with us at all times, and we can constantly balance their cooldowns in order to make sure we've always got some kind of ability going with us in order to hit minions to proc those Seeping Bow. Now, the 4th ability is going to be your Ice Armor with continual damage around it. That's what this offhand does, which gives me Ice Storm. Ice Armor no longer absorbs damage. Instead, it conjures an Ice Storm around us, continually doing damage. So we have 1 more ability that is going to continually generate damage and also, more importantly, move with us. Now, the problem with Ice Armor is it does count as a buff, which is nice because it gives us a bonus to Bottled Hope, and also if you're using Vithus, it will apply from Vithus or your Beneficial Effect duration, but it's also a bummer because any of the Beneficial Effect duration negative you'll have from Curse Gear will also negatively benefit that ability. It also doesn't count as continual damage for things like Banquet of the Eyes, even though you would think, looking at this, maybe this would be continual damage. You can see it is actually not. The only procs we get are for when the Seeping Bow actually procs. But because it hits so many times, it hits in AoE, and it carries with us, it's 1 more ability that we're going to use to proc the poisons, to proc the Seeping Bow, and to continue to clear mobs as we go through. And between Meteorite, the Lightning Nova, the Scorch, you should always at least have 1 ability with you that is up, so that way you can continually move and see clear the mobs that are behind you, etc. Teleport instead of 1 of the abilities, or you could also use the Arcane Winds, as Arcane Winds does pair very well with the Scorch as well. So if you use the Burn into the Arcane Winds, what you can actually do is you can get yourself the Firestorm bonus proc that can happen. So let me show you here. You get the Burn, use the new Arcane Winds, which will pull people in as well as continually deal damage, and you'll notice the cooldown on that Arcane Winds isn't actually too bad, so you can get that right back up fairly quick as well. And that, of course, would be the Thistle Bloom item that you can get. You can also drop Meteorite and instead run Teleport and have the build look something like this, and use the pants to make Teleport actually deal damage on the dash landing. And then that also opens up the opportunity for you to use the continual damage after a dash cursed items if you would like. The problem with using Teleport, I've found, is you sort of need Meteorite in order to fill out the gaps for when the Ice Storm isn't up. So if I use Ice Armor, you're going to notice after Ice Armor is down, there's about a 10-second gap or so of time just sitting there, about 9 seconds, you see? And if I use my other abilities as well, there's still this cooldown where now I have nothing but Teleport in my basic attacks. So for that reason, I actually ran Meteorite as well, and since I've had Meteorite with this 4-piece, I've basically always had some ability floating around me consistently proccing the Seeping Bow and getting the damage output I need and gathering the mobs, etc. So for that reason, even though Teleport is faster, it's been better for me just not to use it. Now, I am mostly using Curse, but if you're going to use the Ancestral Tableau, obviously the AoE that does stun is quite good, but I could actually see the Corpse Explosion one being pretty good as well. And then for Blacksmith, what I'm doing is I'm actually using Hydras for Blacksmith, where I can get myself critical hit damage, I can get Beneficial Effect increased duration, which actually helps with things like the Ice Armor. Now, it doesn't actually influence Lightning Nova, and it does influence Scorches. Those don't count as buffs, but it does influence the Ice Armor. And then when you get critical hit damage and you get skill damage as well, and I take primary hit damage, it's just a bonus, but these two are quite nice, and having the actual Hydra spawning behind you is a pretty big W, because the Hydra recently got an update that makes its attacks a little bit more accurate, and so it can help you clean up some of the mobs behind you, which is very important when you're using like a lazy man's farming build like this. Other gems recommended for this would be DPS gems like Everlasting Torment, for instance. Obviously, Berserker's Eye is always a favorite. More expensive gem recommendations would be things like Bottled Hope, as this will give you movement speed as well as damage when you use your ice armor. Echoing Shade, as it will help you kill mobs behind you. Swenson's Haunting will help you clear the mobs you're currently attacking, and obviously Blood Soak would just give you straight up damage. However, as far as the expensive gems go, I think the only one that's really required for this build would be Seeping Bile. Pain Class would be a fairly heavy second recommendation. That's about it. Let me know what you think. This build is specifically catered just for easy farming to kill trash mobs while you run in circle for hundreds of hours. It's not going to be a PvP build. It's not going to be a boss DPS build. It's not a challenge rift pushing build, okay? It is for easy farming. Go try it out. It's helped me a lot.